for my own edification, really, and it's probably as good a place as any to start. I'd like to go to the origination issue. Because the idea that it's veiled Mayavad or subtle Mayavad or kind of covert Mayavad is, I think, is a unique insight that you have. I don't know if other people are saying it. I think other people are kind of making the point that, well, it's not what Prabhupada said, but I think your contribution is unique in the sense that you're saying, well, it's not just Prabhupada didn't say it, but also Prabhupada's whole campaign was against Mayavad, and this is just a form of covert Mayavad. So maybe we could talk some more about that. Okay, here's the question. Some people feel, as far as the origination issue goes, okay, maybe we were in the spiritual war with Krishna, maybe we weren't. What's the big deal?
All right, the big deal is, first of all, what is our process? Our process is that we can have limited knowledge through yaksha. Limited. And then Anuman gives us indirect a little more. But through these pratyaksh and Anuman, we can't get absolute knowledge about what is the actual reality, because the senses are limited to the unreality, to the relative, which is a type of reality but isn't really called reality, it's a set. So we have to accept higher authority who is realized. And then, after accepting, apply intelligence, and that's called philosophical search for the absolute truth. The contradictions that flow into the mind upon hearing, because you can't put it all together. It's a colossal jigsaw puzzle with millions of pieces. So you receive some knowledge, you put a little part of the puzzle together, that's laudable. But in and of itself, that's just a little part. You need to put the whole puzzle together. And in trying to put the whole puzzle together, you're going to come up with many apparent contradictions in the process. Those apparent contradictions need to be confronted and they need to be resolved. And the process is to hear from authority and then to get rid of the apparent contradictions through philosophical pursuit for the absolute truth, not mental speculation. Meaning that you don't change any of the siddhanta given. You don't change any of the knowledge given. But in order to understand how it fits into the whole puzzle and where it fits and how important it is, all the pieces are important, but just like when you put together a puzzle, some of the blue sky where the piece is just flat out blue sky versus where it's part of somebody's eye and an eye, but they're more important that for the actual whole puzzle. But the sky, you need to get that too. So Prabhupada said in so many places that we were originally with Krishna in the spiritual world. We were all originally Krishna conscious entities. The issue is personalism and impersonalism. Prabhupada says, how can this impersonalism stand? So we need to get free from impersonalism. It's very tough to do because we're surrounded by so many impersonal energies, including conditioned souls. They're personal on the spiritual level, but that spirit soul is, for all practical purposes, dormant. So we're dealing with a colossal machine, a conditioned machine, which looks like it's a person who's a reality person, but really when you get right down to it, it's the modes of nature working as a machine. In the lower modes, with very little sattva, that's a machine. So we're surrounded by all these machines in the form of non-moving life, moving life, and conditioned humans in this age being totally absorbed in the lower modes. So we're surrounded by our physical body, which is impersonal, And our mind also is being besieged constantly by energies which appear to be impersonal, although they ultimately all have a personal source. But the point of the matter is, how can this impersonalism stand? It can stand if you have an upasiddhanta which helps it stand. And the upasiddhanta that we were not originally with Krishna in a sambandha, in a relationship, in the spiritual sky, will promote impersonalism, because the goal then, how can you return to Krishna when you're not responsible for having come down here in the first place? Oh, Krishna created me, I accept. Fine, you accept. But Krishna created you as a conditioned soul, and he put you into a suffering position. You never had your active rasa with him. You never had an active relationship with him. And you're now in this very bad position, although compared to all the other living entities, they're in worse, but you're inhuman. But still, there's so much suffering, and it's temporary, and so much bewilderment. And how can anybody in that situation, if they cannot see how they misused their free will and came down to the material world having misused it, how can anybody get free subtly, subconsciously even, from the resentment that, why was this done to me? I'm not responsible for this, because I never was in the spiritual world to misuse my free will there to be sent into this. I was created like this with an innate desire to return to something that I was never at. So where does this return come from? Where does this back to Godhead come from? This must just be some kind of encouragement. But it isn't the reality, because I wasn't there. These kind of thoughts lead to impersonalism, because you're not personally responsible then.